of Africana Studies at TSU.
Reparations and
Land grant reparation.
land grant reparation.
And then reestablishing
the
Department of Africana
well,
Studies
I tell
at
you
TSU.
what, let's just do land
Grant reparation.
grant reparations.
All right, and then I'll put the rest of it with it.
Yeah, what we can get started, because I
Right.
don't want to throw all of that out.
At one time.
Yeah, and get
We'll do land grant
because
reparation.
that puts a lot on me.
Well,
But I can deal
you'll
with
be all
land
right.
grant reparations. I can
Yeah.
say that we have today
Can you set land grant reparation and Africana Studies?
and Africana Studies.
You can handle
I
that.
can handle that.
Are we good?
Okay, I can handle that.
Well, as long as you just put that
Yes,
in
sir.
there, everything will be just fine.
Yeah, okay. Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is land grant reparations and the establishment of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University. And we have with us to talk about land grant reparations and the establishment of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University, Dr. AAl-Hadid. And of course, Dr. AAl-Hadid, I don't think that you need any kind of introduction to our audience this morning, because you've been with us a number of times.
Absolutely.
But just in case there might be one or two individuals who might not know Dr. AAl-Hadid and might not be able to associate him with some of the departments that we deal with at Tennessee State University, why don't you give us some information in reference to your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of leading you to us this morning, and then we'll talk about the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University.
Yeah, so I think what's important to know about me is I got 2 degrees in Montgomery, Alabama, one from George Washington Carver High and the other one from Alabama State. I left the cradle of the Confederacy and went out to California, got a doctorate degree in sociology, and I came to Tennessee State in 1973. I am a practicing Muslim, helped to establish the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State in 1994. We developed that department over a period of almost 15 years. Someone came from the Tennessee Board of Regents and downsized it to a minor. And where we are now is we're trying to get it back, and we're also trying to get land grant reparations for Tennessee State University. We feel that the state of Tennessee owes TSU almost $100 million in land grant reparations because they were not supplying the matching funds from 1958 to at least down to 2005.
When you talk about land grant reparations, Doctor,
Yes.
I know that you're talking about land grant institutions.
Absolutely.
And there's a history in reference to land grant institutions, and certainly there's a history in reference to where African American universities and colleges fall within land grant reparations. So let's give our audience some idea in terms of what we mean when we talk about land grant reparations and about land grant reparations period, dealing with not only historical black institutions and land grant colleges, but where white institutions might fit into these land grants during this period.
Yes, that's very important. Every state in the union has at least one land grant university. Most of them have what we call the 1862 land grants. And these were put in place during the president of Abraham Lincoln. There was a senator by the name of Morrow. And so the first legislation called the 1862 Morrow Act. Now, of course, once these land grants were established in the South, they did not allow African Americans to participate in these land grant colleges. So in 1890, a second Morrow Act was passed. Now in Tennessee State, well in the state of Tennessee, there are 2 land grants. The University of Tennessee is the 1862 land grant, and Tennessee State University is the 1890 land grant. One of the hallmarks of a land grant, and you sort of tell, especially with the HBCUs, whenever you see the initials A and I, like Tennessee A&I or Florida A&M, those would let you know that these are land grant schools. They started out during the period of the American Industrial Revolution, where they were trying to get the economy to transition from a slaveocracy, you know, the plantations, and move more into the mainstream of the Industrial Revolution, which was taking place primarily in the North. And so that's, I think that's the background history of it. Now, what we're trying to do is that the Department of Agriculture every year gives a pot of money to these land grant schools. In order to secure that money, the land grant schools, the states where the land grants are located have to match the fund. Say, for example, if the Department of Agriculture gave the University of Tennessee $100 million, well, the University of Tennessee, the state of Tennessee itself would have to come up with another $100 million in order to match that. So for that academic year, University of Tennessee would have, let's say, $200 million. Now, if you did the same thing with Tennessee State, which is smaller, TSU has about 9,000 students. University of Tennessee has approximately 28,000 students. It has an endowment of about 1.6 million. TSU has an endowment of 51 million. So the appropriation would be different, but the match has to be there.
Okay, so what we'll do, we'll take our first commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about aspects of that. Sure. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Yeah, that's essentially.
Yes.
Now what's the main thing that you want to deal with this? Because I'm going to simply introduce.
It's two things I want to deal with. One is getting that $100 million that the state of Tennessee owes Tennessee State, because we weren't getting matching funds from 58 down to the
Okay, well, we talk about matching funds.
Matching funds.
That's so
and then we want to talk about reestablishing the major in Africana studies.
Okay.
Those are the two things.
Well, let's do that. Let's do that as a third segment. Reestablishment
of the department in the third segment. Okay.
Second segment, we're going to deal with
land grant match.
Land grant
perfect.
match.
Perfect. Perfect. That's a good format.
Yeah.
That's a good format. And then we
so
can get in
more
depth with the land grant.
8 minutes on land on the matching funds.
Right.
And then we're going to get to that last element. 10 minutes on that third segment.
On bringing the department.
But overall, that first 6 minutes gave us essentially who you are and what we're talking about this morning. And so we're going to start talking about land grant matching funds within the framework of what we've already said.
Absolutely. And then we put that Geyer case in. So
you're going to go 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
I mean, 8 minutes on this second segment. We did 6 minutes.
Okay.
8 minutes on the second segment.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back on. Welcome back to the show. The guest is Dr. AAl-Hadid from Tennessee State University. Can I say?
Absolutely. Adjunct there.
Okay, from Tennessee State University.
Right.
And the topic is land grant reparations and historical black institutions of higher education, and because we've already laid out the land grant for whites and the land grant for blacks, but we want to talk about the matching. Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. AAl-Hadid from Tennessee State University, and the topic is land grant reparations and the establishment of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University. Doctor, let's start off this second segment by talking about what you indicated during the first segment about the matching funds that were to come from the federal government dealing with African institutions and white institutions. Talk about it from that perspective.
Well, if you look at the land grant footprint, there are 96 counties in the state of Tennessee. The University of Tennessee has a footprint in all 96 counties, like Ag Extension, 4-H Club, research, and they get an enormous amount of money. As a matter of fact, when the money comes in from the Department of Agriculture, the University of Tennessee gets at least 70 to 85% of all of the land grant money that comes in. Now, it is an 1862 land grant. It has a larger footprint. Tennessee State, on the other hand, is an 1890 land grant, which are your historically black colleges, and has a smaller footprint. Maybe TSU goes into maybe half of that, probably maybe about 40 or 50 counties, and consequently gets less money. So University of Tennessee gets 75%, Tennessee State gets maybe about 25% of the land grant money that comes in. Now, the problem historically, when TSU became a full-fledged land grant university in 1958, that was roughly during the administration of Dr. Davis. I think I'm right in terms of that history. So TSU would get the land grant money, but it would not get matching funds from the state. Our matching funds would go to University of Tennessee. Sometimes University of Tennessee would get a 1-to-1 match, a 2-to-1 match. They got as high as an 8-to-1 match. To give you some idea what that would look like, if, again, using that number, $100 million, if the University of Tennessee got $100 million in land grant money, the state would give it another $100 million, or they might give them $200 million, or $300 million, or $400 million, or $500 million. So when it ends up, they have a whole lot of money. They might have $6 or $7 million off of that initial $100 million. Now, when Tennessee State would get probably $50 million,
which was established under the second land grant.
The 1990s.
1890s, yeah,
right.
1890s. Yeah.
1890 land grant, because then the 1862 land grant, especially in the South, they were not fair or just. So if Tennessee State got, let's say, 20 million, which is rare, usually gets maybe about 10 or 12 million, then the state would have to come up with another 10 million, so Tennessee State would have 20 million. But from 1958 until the time, say roughly about 2005 or 2006, TSU was not getting a match. And how were they able to secure the funds? That meant they had to dip into TSU's operating budget in order to secure the money for the land grant. Otherwise, it would be sent back to the Department of Agriculture.
What was the rationale for not allowing Tennessee State University to receive that match, those matching funds, after a certain period?
You have to realize that that was during the time of Jim Crow, or legal segregation. So with white supremacy being the government, then the University of Tennessee could do whatever they wanted to do. And there was nothing Tennessee State could do or say about it, because they were under that type of oppression.
In other words,
state
Tennessee State ought to be glad to receive any land grant, any part of that land grant
right.
from the federal government, but the state of Tennessee really almost ignored to match those funds. Is that what we're saying?
We're saying that the University of Tennessee operates as an academic monopoly. It is the dominant or flagship university in the state of Tennessee, and it gets whatever, it always gets the lion's share of appropriations, whether it's coming from the state or whether it's coming from the federal government or from the private sector. And so TSU, because it had to dip into its operating budget over those years from 1958 to about 2005, 2006, TSU, as we speak, is suffering from what we might call arrested development. So if you take money out of the operating budget, that means buildings are not going to be kept up and maintained. That means that supplies for students or faculty salary, some part of the normal operating budget would suffer because you're having to secure the land grant money. You got to take some of the operating money to secure that. So that's why TSU is in the shape that it is now. I mean, like I said earlier, TSU only has an endowment of $51 million. The University of Tennessee has an endowment of $1.6 billion. So in other words, you can see the
See where
uneven
the
development.
money is, where,
But the common denominator is that they are both land grant institutions
both,
operating in conjunction with the Federal Department of Agriculture.
whether you look at the 1860 institutions or the 1890 institutions,
Yes.
they are both responding to what a match fund that they
Right.
receive.
Absolutely.
And Tennessee State University does not receive
Right.
a matching fund
Right.
after a certain period. And then when it does receive it, it's much less, in a real sense, than what is given out to the major to the University of Tennessee. And you say that this is what happens throughout the South, dealing with all of these historical black.
Whether it's Arkansas A&M in Arkansas, or whether it's Alabama A&M in Alabama, or Florida A&M in Florida, it's the same story. There are about 15 or 16 HBCUs that are land grant, okay, among the state schools. And so they suffer from the same kind of thing. Now, the interesting thing about it was that you remember when in 1968, when the University of Tennessee established a branch in Nashville, the intent there was to run Tennessee State out of business. So now you would only have one land grant in the whole state of Tennessee, which would be University of Tennessee 1862.
Which would get all the money.
We'll get all of the money. There would be no money for an 1890 land grant, because TSU, if you will recall, is the only public HBCU in the whole state of Tennessee. And it is the only public university in Nashville. All the other public universities in Nashville are either community colleges or technology centers. So TSU has only two choices. It can either be a pawn in the higher education chess game, or it could be the queen bee in the higher education chess game.
Because if it were to get the match funds that should come to it. And what about, you're talking about getting match funds from earlier years as well. Okay.
That's where the reparations come in.
And so what we're going to do, we're going to take our second commercial break, and we'll talk about that.
Yes.
And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.
Okay.
Wish in reference to that.
The story.
Well, I want to hear the story.
Yes, sir.
See, and that's why you're here to have the story.
Now,
told.
will this be on, will my students be able to grab it tomorrow?
Not
or
tomorrow,
next week?
but next week.
Okay, I meet with them on Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay, we should be able, what's the day? We should be able to deal with it between now and Thursday. I'll get you a copy.
Okay.
I'll get you a copy.
Okay.
Me and you to deal with that.
Right. I'll give me a DVD.
Yeah.
And I'll play it
Or I'll put it and I'll send it to your email.
Okay.
By way of the web.
Right.
You just give me your email address and I'll just send you a copy of it.
Yeah. Because I've done another one on reparations too.
Yeah, you have. I can send you anything you want. You do.
Yes,
Tell me
just send me the ones on reparations.
Okay, you tell
Because
me
I
what
know
you
I have
want.
a previous one on reparations. We're getting them geared up for the reparation
You
great
can get
debate.
anything that you want. Just go to my website and put Dr. AAl-Hadid and click.
Right.
And everything that you've done come out, all 150 or 200 of them.
Oh my.
It's been there.
You said you were going to make me famous.
It's in there. You've been famous.
Worldwide.
You get 4.7
Hits.
100,000
Hits. A year?
Yeah, no, it's right there. You look at it. You haven't seen that?
No.
Man,
It's on
I've been telling
YouTube?
y'all that. It's on YouTube,
Facebook,
on Twitter, on Facebook, on everything. I got 75,000 videos out there on those 3 channels. Thank you, and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. AAl-Hadid from Tennessee State University, and the issue is land grant reparation. And of course, Dr. AAl-Hadid, I think we've given our audience some idea in terms of the disparity, in terms of the money that African institutions receive as well as white institutions in terms of land grants. And so what we'd like to do today is to allow you the opportunity to talk about further developments in reference to this.
Yes. Well, you know, we're having a great debate next month, and the resolution is going to be land grant reparations for Tennessee State and a world-class Africana Studies Department in order to overcome a century of arrested development and cultural alienation.
And neglect.
And neglect, absolutely. So what has happened now, as you know, we established the Department of Africana Studies in 1994. It was the only freestanding Africana Studies Department in the whole Southeast. Now, of course, our neighbors in Middle Tennessee, to the north, we had Austin P. And then, of course, to our south, I guess, we had Middle Tennessee State. They had minors with black culture centers, but they were prevented from getting the major because we had it. Now, had they gotten it, that would have been duplication of programs, which would have been against the consent.
And almost eliminated Tennessee State University
now,
in reference.
And so what happened, because they set a benchmark of graduating 10 students a year on an average, because of the elements that were working inside of the university against the prosperity of the department, we weren't able to hit that 10 a year benchmark. We were able to hit like 7 and 8 a year. So the Board of Regents sent an interim president out with a mission, and that was to get rid of the culture of Tennessee State, to get rid of that department, and also to dismantle the College of Arts and Sciences. So in that scenario, we lost the major in Africana Studies, and it was downsized to a minor. But just can you imagine a so-called historically black college that does not see the history and culture of people of African descent as mission essential? I mean, how do you justify calling Tennessee State black anything when you don't value Africana studies or the study of people of African descent or the history of people of African descent?
So you're saying that the Africana Studies Department represents the most important element in terms of how Africans can identify at the institution with the African experience.
Yeah, well, the thing is, why do parents send their children to a so-called historically black college? So that they can learn something about their culture, learn some about their history, so they will become culturally literate and culturally competent. Because they've already had 12 years of white studies at these schools, whether public or private. So now it's time for them to study themselves. And then when they come to these schools, yes, they offer it in various departments. They might even have a minor or a major, but it's all coincidental. None of it is required in the general education curriculum. So in other words, the black experience becomes the bait that attracts African-American students to these schools, and then they do a bait and switch by giving them another dose of white studies. And that's, I think there's something unethical about that. I'm not going to say it's criminal, but it certainly is unethical, because you're saying you're a black school, but you don't value the culture and the history of black people. Proof of which you major in the minor and minor in the major. You see what I'm saying? So if you're a black school, you're supposed to be intentional about teaching the children, these young people, about their history and their culture. Because right now we're in another period where we're going through another black power phase or another black consciousness phase. Proof of which we had 8 years of a black president, and you got this young people in the streets talking about Black Lives Matter. But somehow or another, that has not washed onto the campuses of these HBCUs. They have not picked up the clarion call to talk about how Black Lives Matter. You know, it's not that significant to them. They want to more or less be an imitation white school, a carbon copy of a white school. And whatever white schools value in terms of, you know, training people to work in corporate America, that's what they value. And when you talk about majoring in Africana Studies, the first thing they would say to you, what can you do with a major in Africana Studies? The answer is whatever you can do with a major in history, English, sociology. You can go to law school, you can go to medical school. anything you can do with any major in the humanities, the social sciences, and babies, but they don't realize this.
But you've already demonstrated
Yes.
through the students that you've graduated from
Absolutely.
the Africana Studies Department that they can do anything. They can go to medical school,
Right.
to law school,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Same, and so there should really be no question
No.
in terms of the validity
Right.
of the information that students are receiving in the Africana Studies area. Is that what we're saying?
Right. What we're saying is, when someone asks me the question, what can you do with a major in Africana Studies? First of all, I think the first thing that happened is that you can check out your mind and get a proper alignment of your thinking and your spirit with your history and your culture and with your community, right? And so when they talk about these majors, STEM majors, for example, if you get a STEM major, what are you going to do? You will get a job working for white supremacy. You're not going to get a job, working for yourself. You're not going to be inspired to do that, right? But with Africana Studies, a lot of our majors are entrepreneurs. They are principals of schools. They work as counselors. They are in the area of clinical psychologists, school psychologists. Every sector of society that you can imagine, we have our young people working in those. We've graduated about 61 students. Last student came out in 2014.
And these
because that's when
students
they ended the department.
demonstrate the
Yeah.
validity of the Africana experience.
Yes.
When they get their degree or their major in Africana Studies, you've got proof that students can take that degree and do practically anything
they want
that
to.
they wish to do.
And I think the students that major in Africana Studies have more confidence in their ability to deal with white supremacy and capitalism. They don't have that inferiority complex. They are not uncertain about
Limited in terms of what they think about.
Because see, Africana Study does for us what white studies does for white students. It makes you feel good about being who you are. And that's what education is supposed to do. See, all knowledge that's useful and beneficial starts with what? Self-knowledge. And then it works out to knowledge of others and things. And that's how it works. That's how you have to navigate yourself through a society whose culture is based on white supremacy and economic system is based on class inequality.
Now, we've got about a minute and a half.
Yes.
What would you suggest in terms of how we might be able to move this Africana Studies idea into a larger area without opposition?
Well, I think that what we have to do at Tennessee State specifically, we're going to have a great debate next month. And I'd like for your viewing audience to just check with me on my email. It's called greatdebateuniverse@gmail.com. Greatdebateuniverse.
UNIVER.
UNIVER. Greatdebateuniverse@gmail.com. And just check with me on that, and we'll let you know when the great debate is taking place next month. And we're also going to have a great debate during the time of Kwanzaa, which will be on the 28th of December. So we have one in the great debate in November, within the next 2-3 weeks, and then we're also going to have a great debate during the days of Kwanzaa, the third night of Kwanzaa on December the 28th.
And of course, all of this is part of the Great Debate series that you've sponsored at Tennessee State University and that you've talked to us on numerous occasions dealing with that particular topic.
See, we started the Great Debate in 1985, and our mission statement was to push back on the idea of the stipulation of settlement, which was designed to culturally alienate the African Americans at TSU and to make TSU half white by 1993.
Okay, and so what we're going to do, we're going to thank our audience for their participation this morning, and we encourage you to tune in again next week to another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
domestic violence.
Okay.
We deal with that.
Let's
We talk about youth violence.
Let's deal with this topic.
Okay.
Because I got to have a topic here.
Okay.
And so personal interest
In
in
changing character.
In other words, you ought to have a personal interest if you want to be somebody different.
There you go.
If you want to change your
Now that
character.
might be the name of your organization and whatever, but that's not the title that we want to use to get to the information that you want
The
to give
topic
us.
that we trying to reach out, reach the people.
I can share this right here. We can deal with youth violence. You want to deal with that?
Well, I mean, if that, we don't have to change anything. We can deal with,
Okay.
and we can still get that personal interest in changing
Character. Okay.
In other words, you have to have a person if you want to be a different person. And let's
You gotta change your-
let's call
Hello?
let's call this
Talk like you normally.
Hey, how you doing?
changing
Oh,
life experience.
hello, hey.
Just count to 10.
Okay?
Hey, check one, check two.
Changing life experiences. In other words, you're going to change your, you no longer wish to do that. And so your life experiences have taught you that whatever you've been doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And so we could just, for the sake of this particular
Okay.
show,
Sir, if you'll do it, Mike.
and this group of
Mic check.
information,
Okay.
personal
1, 2.
interest,
1, 2.
and
Can you hear?
in changing character. But let's, instead of character, let's talk about changing life experiences.
That's fine.
And that'll give you an opportunity to go back and talk, because that's easier to grasp.
Okay.
Changing life experience, how to change life experiences. Changing life experience. That's what I'm going to do. I'm
Okay.
gonna call it that.
That's
And
fine.
y'all talk about what you want to talk about, and I'm going to use it under that title.
Okay.
Is that right?
Do mic check for me.
1, 2,
Keep going.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Is it good?
West, Carson, Kaysen, and Howard.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to open the show, and I'm going to talk about the title. And we're going to call this Changing Life Experiences.
You'll do a mic check for me, sir.
Mic check. Mic check. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Don't move that chair. Keep that chair
Still.
still. Yeah,
Okay.
Don't rock it or anything. And
Okay.
look at me.
Okay.
When you talk, look at me. Okay.
Okay.
Changing life experiences. Okay. And are you hooked up? You got your mic on?
Yes, sir. It's right here in the middle.
Move your necklace.
Okay. Yeah. Don't Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is change in life experiences, and we're fortunate to have with us three individuals, excuse me, to talk about change in life experiences, Wes, Kason, and Howard. And of course, what we'll allow the three of you, Mr. Wes, to do during this first segment is to give us some information about your background, education, and some of your experiences. Also, Ms. Kason, I would like for you to do the same thing after Mr. West give that information. And finally, Howard, I would like for you to close us out with the last 2 minutes dealing with your background, education, experiences. And by the time we come out of this 6-minute segment, we should have some pretty good information in reference to who we are and what we're trying to do. Let's start off with you, Mr. West, by having you to give us some information in reference to your background, education, and some of your experiences.
All right, my name is Bryson West. My education, I went to high school and got a little bit of college up under my belt, and but you know, I think most importantly is my background. My background is I come from a godly home, a Christian home, and grew up raised by my grandmother, and you know, my father wasn't there in my life, you know, but I continue to persevere, you know, through life, and I feel like I'm a very successful man now, and my experiences have been it's been very challenging. You know, I went out in the streets and, you know, had that particular lifestyle going on, but God delivered me from that. And so now I'm just passionate about people and want to see people do better and want to see people change and love God, and that's what my heart is.
And so you've had a change in your life, and so you think that you have some information that will allow other folks, if they understand what you're talking about, to change their lives. Is that what we're talking about today?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like I've been through. I mean, change. I'm always changing for the better. And so, you know, if I can help somebody along the way, that's what it's all about.
Ms. Kason, what about your experiences?
My name is Brittany Kason, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, North Nashville. I grew up in the hoods, and I did have a lot of struggles growing up, but I've always been the one to love people, and I always wanted better. I fell to the system at a young age, so I made some terrible choices, but I paid for them. And then I'm just trying now to better and show other people that even though you fall, you can get back up and you can make it and be better.
What are some of your experiences that you think that folks ought to be familiar with to know that you've changed?
Well, everybody that knows me now, I've always done hair. I started doing hair off the porch when I was like 9 years old. Then I started in school, but I went to school after my incarceration period, and then I went, and now I'm working at my family-owned business salon, and then now I give back to the community. That's my gift back to others, by going back into the community and showing them love and showing them, hey, it's better out here.
In other words, you think that your experiences should be able to help others to overcome
Yes, sir.
whatever negative things that they might have in their lives
sir.
or their environment. And so you've lived it.
Yes, sir.
And so now you think that you can speak to it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Howard, over the last 2 minutes, what about your situation and your experiences?
I went to Metro Public Schools at Mayport High School, and I went on to TSU. I was considered at the time one of the best and the brightest in this country. I mean, as far as my mind was. But once I got there, you know, my family was going through some personal struggles, some financial struggles, and I was like most young men at that age, you know, figured that I needed to do something. So I got caught up in the street life. And, you know, the street life, you know, we make bad decisions, bad choices, and they take you down a road that ends up being incarceration. And for some people, it's even worse, it can be death, you know. You know, once I came out, you know, I knew that I had to change my mindset, you know, to do something better and to reach out and be supportive of, you know, young people like going through those same struggles. So.
And so you believe from the title that I think your organization, Personal Experiences and Change in Life Experiences, is that personal information that you can really change your own life and you represent what that is all about. Is that what we're saying, Mr. Howard?
Yes, sir. Personal interest in changing character. the first thing that you got to do is you got to have a personal interest in yourself to want to do something different. And then from doing something different, you got to have a change of mindset. Mindset is everything. And once you change your mindset, then your character will start to change.
But the most important thing is that the individual has to make up his or her mind
Yes, sir.
that they want things to be different in
Yes,
their
sir.
lives. And so
Yes,
that's
sir.
what we'll do. And what we'll do, we'll take our first commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Excellent. This is 6 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Now, this 8-minute segment, we want to talk about what you want to talk about during this 8-minute segment. You want to talk about, we could take 8 minutes to talk about your changes, how you went through those changes and where you are now. We could give you 3 minutes to talk about that. We could also give you 3 minutes to lay out some of your problems and some of your changes that made you able to come to tell the world about your situation this morning. And of course, Mr. Howard, you can do the same thing. That's what we want to do now, because I think you've demonstrated that it is possible to change.
Yeah.
But now solidify that by saying that this is what happened to me, you see, and then tell that story, you see. And so, we've got 8 minutes. And that's about 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes again. And then we'll have that last 2 minutes, because you might go over 2 minutes, you see. But, keep it within that range, and then we'll have 8 minutes with that. And then the last segment, we'll have 10 minutes. And then we can branch out further in reference to it. But talk about yourself. Talk about why you have changed your life. You said what it means to you. All right? And so we'll call it personal interest and change in life experiences. I see what it means now. See, but that title is I see. Man. That happens all the time. I can tell my own experiences.
Yes, sir.
And you wouldn't believe.
No, I believe, because I used to hear them
No,
stories.
you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't believe.
Dr. Hayner, when I had your class, you
You
used to you usually share them experiences
You wondered
with us.
how I got alive.
So
Came
like
out
we'll
alive.
know, you know what I'm saying? Because you
Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. West, Ms. Carson, Ms. Kaysen, and Mr. Howard, and they're talking about some of their experiences and how these experiences led to a change in lifestyle and change in whatever they had been doing prior to that time. And so, Mr. West, let's start off with you and give you a couple of minutes to talk about how you think that your life has changed, and give us some examples, some graphic examples in terms of why you are no longer who people thought you were a long time ago.
Okay, well, my story is different. My story, I was raised right. I was raised to do the right thing. Went to church, and but I was still lacking something. Something was still missing. I knew I had a purpose for my life, and so what happened was I kind of put myself. I was self-sabotaging myself. I was putting myself in the streets when I knew I wasn't raised to be in the streets. And in that, I became more in depth in the streets. And it winded up just, drugs and alcohol and, everything that comes with that lifestyle, and it just got deeper and deeper, deeper until finally one day I just said, God, I'm tired. And once I got tired, I developed a personal interest within myself to say, something's got to change. And it wasn't nothing that I just surrendered, and so as I began to surrender my life, it wasn't an overnight process, but things began to change. I began to notice that, God began to reveal himself to me even more, let me know that he's real. I mean, I knew him from church, but I didn't have a personal experience with him in my life. And as he began to reveal himself more and more and more, I began to be able to see myself more clearer. And so I began to change. I began to change and come out of certain situations that I was putting myself in.
And you knew that you were changing because other people reacted to you differently because of those experiences and those changes. Would you say that?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I knew that I had changed because it was certain environments that I would try to go back to and I just didn't fit. I just didn't want to be there, you know, and it was like, it pushed me out of that, you know what I mean? Because I believe once you begin to wake up to who you really are, you know, you don't fit in those environments no more. You know, you can try to go back and do that same stuff, but then some kind of a way you'll wind up getting, you know, put right, you know, you'll get reminded that, hey, look, that ain't where you're supposed to be.
Miss Kaysen, there's an old song called The Things I Used to Do, I Don't Do No More. Now tell us about your situation in reference to that.
Basically, I was 21 and I decided, even though I knew church and I knew my mom had raised me in church and stuff, I was like in a struggle basically in my life, going back and forth of what's right and what's wrong to do. And so I jumped out in the streets head first, even though I was raised in church, but I also lived in the hood. And so I decided to go rob and thought I was not gonna get caught and got caught. But my change really started in prison. A lot of people say change started once you step outside of prison, but my change started in prison because I had to take a step back and look at myself like, hey, is this the life you want for the rest of your life? You got nieces and nephews to look up to you, your mama, you don't want to disappoint the whole family. Like, life is so much bigger than that. So my change started in there and I had to separate myself and I had to get like my own understanding with God and my own relationship with him, not just off my mama prayers and her fast. And I had to develop that for myself. But then once I stepped out of there, it was a whole nother, whoa. It was like I thought I was taking a step back because I was always able to work and stuff. And once you do get a stigma on you and they label you, they try to keep that. And then like I started seeking help. And then that's how I got in touch with D. Howard through the personal interest changing, character changing program. And he helped me from day one. I told him what I wanted. I came out with my plan and he helped me from day one. Like, he called, what you want to do? I want to go to school. I want to do hair. That's all I can do. I can't do nothing else. I know I can do hair. And he helped me. And I started school the next Monday. And ever since then, I took off. And like all my friends, I had friends go back. I had friends I stepped up and helped. I had friends I lost. And I was like, it's not no life for me. I don't want to go back.
But you know that your life had changed. And so, Mr. Howard, evidently you're responsible in a real sense in terms of laying the foundation for people to understand themselves better. Talk about that from that perspective. How do you fit into being able to tell other folks what to do?
Well, I mean, you know, it's just too much own life experiences. I'm like, you know, most people, you know, I was raised in a two-parent home, which is kind of unusual now because you mostly got like single mother-led homes. But I was raised in a two-parent home. Father was always active in my life. Mother was an educator. So I knew the right things to do. I just simply lost my way. But when I lost my way, the first time, you know, I just went back to the same things I already knew. But the second time, I knew I had to do something different. I had children. I had a grandchild. And, you know, just through that, I needed to do something different. So I focused on trying to, you know, change myself, work on my attitude, my mindset, work on my abilities so I can be working and employed. And, you know, just through that life experience, I found that like, and some things that are common to everybody, you know. And one of those things that's common to everybody is you have to have a relationship with God. That's first and foremost in everything for you to do anything. Secondly, you got to have a change of mindset because whatever you're doing, until you change what you used to do to try to do something different, you know, it'll never happen for you. And then secondly, you know, you need to learn how to listen to people. You know, listening is one of the greatest qualities in communication that people just don't understand. You know, they spend a lot of time trying to tell people what to do. They want to dictate to people. But if you take the time to listen to someone, you could probably learn how to help them best for them.
I would imagine that during the last minute or so that we have in this segment, I would imagine that all three of you would be willing to tell young people that they have to change their lives, and all they have to do is to look at what you've done and how you've been able to overcome. And you would also say that religion played a significant role, because I think that that is one of the things that comes out in all of the stories about what God has done.
Yes, sir.
And so you would also be willing to go out and to tell folks that this is what God did for me. And if you become God-centered, you see, you don't have to become a preacher or whatever,
No, sir.
but all you have to do is to become God-centered. Then wonderful things can happen in your life, just as you are demonstrating here to our audience today, that you've had some changes in your life. And again, as we said, as we end this segment for today, that the things that you used to do,
Don't do no more.
you don't do no more.
No, sir.
And I think that if you can have young people to say that, then we can end a lot of killings, a lot of robberies, and a lot of things simply by that idea. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take our second commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. And what you want to do is to tell that that's what you're trying to do, Howard. You're trying to get young people involved to tell that story. And I think what all three of you have demonstrated is that you are using religion, God, what God has done. That God, and I know if Pastor Walker sent you, I know his story too.
Right, right.
And if he sent you, he can tell you that what God can do, and he's a proponent of what God can do in our lives.
Right.
And individuals have to make up their own mind. Once they make up their own mind, Howard, they don't have any problems. I know, hey, I had some real experiences.
Yeah, that's real
Nobody would
challenge.
ever think that Dr. Haney did that. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
You see, but you know, I grew out of it.
Yeah.
I moved away from it.
Yeah.
And a large number of us don't have an opportunity. A large number of us, if you're 14, 15 years old, somebody will kill you before you get to be 17 when you might learn something.
Right.
Or you
see,
might
and
be able to move.
You understand? That's right. You see,
I can
so,
share some of that
And so we've
experience,
got 8 minutes in the
Okay.
second segment and give you an opportunity. We'll start with you, Mr. West. Give you an opportunity to talk about anything that you want to do. This is your free time to give some information to our young. Let's talk to our young people this morning. You talk about youth violence and killing and what. Let's zero in on your message to the youth this morning, your message to the youth, and your message to the youth. Okay, let's do it that way. And that'll give us an opportunity to end for the day. Okay? Thank you, and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. West, Ms. Kaysen, and Mr. Howard, and they're giving us some information relative to how they were able to overcome many of the obstacles that they faced in their early part of their lives. And so, Mr. West, let's have you this morning, recognizing that we've got a real problem with many of our young people killing and shooting and et cetera. Let's have you during this last segment to speak to the young people this morning. The same thing for you, Ms. Kaysen, and the same thing for you, Mr. Howard. Let's all speak to our young people this morning, black or white, male or female, or wherever they might be. Speak to them this morning and tell them why they should do what you've done.
Like I said, you know, you got to surrender. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times with our young people, you know, they're just so, everybody's trying to, you know, do something, you know, or they want their voice to be heard. And like I was sharing with Brother Darryl the other night, you know, who was on the phone, and you know, with that, you know, they're gonna let their voice be heard, whether it's, you know, through gunfire, you know what I mean, whether it's through, you know, smoking, you know what I mean, you know, drugs, dope, whatever, you know. But you know, I want to let them know, man, that like you have a voice, you know what I mean, and your voice is powerful, you know, as a young person. And so, you know, just begin to realize, you know, for like we were saying, you know, you got to want it first, though. You know, like I run into a lot of young people who just don't want it. They just done gave up on life at a young age. I'm like, why you giving up so young? Like, you still got your whole life ahead of you. It's too young. You too young to give up. And so one thing that we do here at Personal Interest, man, we don't give up on them. You know, and I just want to encourage them, man, that like, you know, like we haven't given up on our young people. Like, yeah, it looks bad, it looks rough, but you know, there's hope. There's hope. And if we can just reach one of them, and then make that and allow them to know that like you can change. You know what I mean? If you just want it, you gotta want it though. Like, people can help you all day long, but if you don't want it, you know what I mean, then yeah, you're gonna die. I mean, it's just point blank period. And the truth is that some of them just don't want it, and that's gonna be the end result. But our charge is to let them know that, hey, look, it's another way that you can do this thing, and to stick it out with them. You know what I mean? And not just talk about it, not just preach to them, but actually get out there in the field with them.
Ms. Kaysen, what would you say to young women this morning? Not only African women, but any young lady this morning that might be going the wrong way. Tell them what they need to do.
Well, I really just keep God first, as first and foremost. But even if you don't know God, get around somebody spiritual who can lead you to the right direction. But learn from my experience. Don't go through what I had to go through the hard way. Because once you do get a label, you're labeled that. And once they label you, it's no coming back from it, no matter what. They say you get expunged. Nah, it's a whole process you got to go through. And it's a lot of stuff you don't got to go through. Like, I just learn from me. Take my experience and run with it. Don't go through the life experience that you don't got to go through. Don't go through and have all these excuses because I'm in the hood, because it's hard, because everybody's doing it. Do something different. Make school your goal. Make whatever you want to be like far as your future your goal. Make something worth talking about.
And you would also say that no matter what their experiences might be now, that other folks can relate to those experiences, and other folks have had the same experiences, but they've been able to what? Overcome.
You can overcome.
See, that's the most important thing, that they have to wake up every morning.
Yes, and you have to know, because you're going to get some blows, but you got to keep on. You got to keep on. No matter how many times you get knocked down, keep on pushing.
That makes you
keep
strong,
going.
understanding that whatever obstacles you face, these obstacles are there to make you stronger. Is that what you would say, Mr. Howard? Talk about yourself.
Yes, I mean, I will agree with that, but I want to also say this here. A lot of times when you make your change, you still gonna have some like obstacles and some challenges, right? Yes. And for me, I deal with young men and young women all day, okay? But we know that when you change one young man, you also change their family dynamic. Yes. And when you change their family dynamic, then you can change the whole community. Now, myself, even while I'm out here trying to change young people and try to change the community daily, I have dealt with some personal losses and some challenges. Like I lost a son to gun violence 2.5 years ago. I lost a granddaughter 8 days ago. She's a 16-year-old young lady there around in Begley who was murdered in Casey. So I'm dealing with these life experiences every day. But what I do know is, as long as we out there, as long as we listening, you know what I mean, there's hope for young people. There's hope for the community. So we just want to just be there for them, you know, and whatever we need to help them to become their better selves and reach that greatness that, like, you know, God has called them to be. We want to be that for them.
Yes, right.
And so what we're saying here, Mr. West, is that no matter what the situation might be, that all you have to, all you have to do is make up your mind that you're not going to allow anything to keep you from having a goal. And that's one of the things that you have to establish. Whatever you wish to be, you can be. Absolutely. You see, but what you have to do, and I think all of us would agree, you have to make up your own mind as to how much you wish to be there. Do you wish to be a lawyer? How much do you wish to be a lawyer? Yeah. And knowing that all lawyers at one time had to wish to be a lawyer. Right. And the thing, and if you want to be somebody, a politician, whatever your life's calling might be, you can be that if you wish to be so. And so I guess, Mr. Howard, the main part of the organization itself is personal interest. You have to take a personal interest
in yourself.
And you got to
invest in yourself.
Vested interest in yourself, and that will change all of your life experiences, no matter what others around you might say. You have to continue that.
Because then you can start to see the possibilities of who you can be.
Things might not be well now.
Yes, sir.
But if you keep a vision and you have an idea that you can succeed,
And you
you
work
look
hard at
around
it.
and you put yourself in a crowd
Yeah.
of individuals that have the same mindset,
Yes, sir.
the three of you are telling us that no matter what that situation might be, that you can succeed. Talk about
anything is
that,
possible.
Ms. Kaysen.
Well, anything is possible. Like, and that's one thing that, because when you are in the system, they expect you to fail. They count on you failing. They got numbers on you, and you're a number to them. And so you have to have the mindset that, hey, anything is possible. Like, y'all saying this, but I'm going to take this. Y'all might tell me no 1,000 times. Somebody going to tell me yes. I'm not going to give up just because I get knocked down 1,000 times. That 1,001 time going to be that one time I get that yes. And it's nothing that's going to stop that. And then I'm not going to sabotage myself. And then I'm also not going to put myself in situations where I know it's going to take me back. Like some of my friends, I still love them, but I can't deal with them. Like I have to, hide by. See y'all, I'm praying for you. I'm going this way, y'all doing it. I'm doing this, y'all doing it. Like, it is like for real when they say you gotta change everything, you have to change everything. Your people, your places, and you have to have a bigger mindset. Like, no matter what, I'm not gonna give up. No matter what, that hope is always there. And when you know that hope is there, it's no turning back. And it's always gonna be people. Daryl, you, Dr. Haney, Wiz, people that's gonna come and help you and support you and like give you that push. Like, I can make it, I can keep going. It's hard, but keep on.
Okay, Mr. Howard, close us out today for the last minute and a half we have here.
Okay, well, I would just encourage everyone, whatever you want to do in life, continue to work at it. Seek out people who can help you along your way. Education is always the key, and it's not always books. Sometimes it's job training, sometimes it's job resource. Sometimes it's just life experiences and people who you have in your life can help you along your path so you can become who you want to be.
And become familiar with some of the books and whatnot. Go to the library
Yes, sir.
and find how to make friends and influence people. And follow something like that and understand the concepts that are part of that and apply those concepts to your life, and you will find that slowly you will find that you are not doing the things that you used to do, and you can stand up proudly and tell people, Ms. Kaysen, the things I used to do. That's an old song, but and I think that if you can say the things I used to do, if those things were negative, you don't do no more. If you and by believing in that concept, reading some information about it, anything that you can do in order to further that idea and get that thought in your mind, you will be successful. And let me thank the three of you for coming by and giving us some information, not only us, but giving young people some information in terms of what they have to do and how they can do. And it's not, it's cheap in terms of financially. You don't have to have a lot of money to do this. Yeah. But anyway, let me thank the three of you, and let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and